Hey, and welcome to the second episode of the Snake Bite series. And this one is interesting because we are going to have a host. And before I introduce you to the host, I want to tell you what this podcast is going to be about. We're going to talk about improper access control, and if you don't know this, improper access control is a security problem where an application does not properly control who can access what. This means people might be able to see, change, or use information they shouldn't have access to. This is kind of similar to missing authorization, which I talked about in my previous podcast, episode number 1. You should check it out, where I talked about multiple examples. And in this episode, of course, I'm going to talk about multiple real case scenarios as well with the host. So welcome, Smile Hacker. He's a product security analyst at HackerOne. Hey, how you doing?
Hey there, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good. Welcome to this channel. So let's get to the topic. As you know, we are talking about improper access control. So I want to know, do you think there is a difference between improper access control and missing access control?
So a nice topic, by the way. And yes, there is definitely a difference between improper and missing access control. Generally, people thinks that this comes under the same hood or same category, but it is not true. However, you can say that like when it comes to missing access control, if there is an application which allows an unauthorized user or a user to perform some actions which without any sort of authentication comes under category of missing access control. However, broken access control or improper access control, you can say, that comes when you are performing an idle issue where a lower level user can perform the actions of the higher level user, right? So we can say it, privilege escalation comes under the improper access control.
Isn't this similar to missing authorization? For example, in secure direct object reference, you are able to perform actions that you're not supposed to do.
Yes, you're right on that. There is other name of improper access control is broken authorization checks or improper authorization.
Wow. They still are very different in categories, but I guess it depends on the vulnerability how you want to categorize them.
True.
Okay, so I know you're a bug hunter, so can you tell me about a bug that you found on improper access control?
Sure, there are a lot of bugs. Usually, I do like hunting on access control and broken authentication bugs. So, there are some certain bugs where you can perform the actions which you're not allowed to do so. So, generally, for this kind of bugs, you gotta choose an application which has wide functionalities. Let's take an example that there is a site, or okay, there is a PayPal business or Amazon business site, okay, so where in such application you have multiple roles in that application, right? So generally that you have certain roles, that one is the admin, another is super admin, then others are read only users, some are some users are with some certain accesses, or where in some application you can customize your own roles or you can set up your own role list, where you can say it as access control list, ACLs, okay. So in such application, you can try sort of bugs like, let's say if you are a lower level user, right? So you should not be having any sort of permissions for changing the other users' accounts or profiles or profile details, right? However, an admin can perform it. So let's take an example. You do have two accounts with you. One has an admin role, another has an normal user role. So you are gonna change the information of the user C. user A is admin, user B is normal user, and user C is another normal user. We can consider that user is a victim user. Okay,
Okay.
so you are an admin and you trying to change the first name and last name of the user C here. Okay, so let's say you are intercepting a request on your favorite proxy tool, anything. I will prefer Burpsuit as my point of view. And okay, so you are intercepting a request of changing the first name and last name of user C here. Okay, you're gonna save that request in your repeater, and you can drop that request or you can forward it. Okay, so now you as an attacker, you're gonna log into the application, and okay, same request you can try accessing with the user B session, which is user B's authenticated cookies, right? So if you are allowed to, if you are able to perform that action, and you are receiving the 200 okay response, and in the response you are seeing some JSON response that okay, success, or okay, or profile has been updated, or some sort of response which has application has set by the developers. Okay, so that causes improper access control where an lower user can change or the first name and last name, or update the profile of the other users.
True. Okay. So this is the case of post request, I would say.
Certainly, yes. Most of the application uses the post request to perform such sensitive actions like updating a profile. Yes.
In case of GET, for example, if you're trying to access some URL with a lower privilege session, you can try to access that URL which is only available to admin, right?
Yes, definitely. So generally, when it comes to bug bounty and pen testing, you should be having two kind of roles with you, right? With admin privileges, another with low level account. Okay. However, when you go and hack a real life application, then you can think like that. Okay, how a lower level user can fetch the endpoints of the admin level user, right? There's always a mystery about that. So in certain cases you can try reading the javascript of the application, where you can find some certain endpoints which are only allowed to an admin, right?
Yep.
So you can check in JavaScript if there is any AJAX request going, or XML HTTP request, which you can call is that as XHR request is. So you can read those requests, is what parameters should be there, what request method or HTTP verb they are using, get, post, put, patch, delete, anything. And you can read that particular endpoint, and you can draft your own request from that your authenticated session, which is of the lower level user, and you can try performing such actions. These are some amazing approach you can try when it comes to bug bounty.
Oh, wow. That was really good tip.
Mhm.
You really have to analyze the application and read the JavaScript and take your time to do so if you want to find those bugs.
That's true, really. The more you analyze, the more you're gonna get good with the application, and the more hands-on experience you will have. So here's the thing: that most of the hackers who are really at the number one on the activity or the leaderboard of the one particular program in bug bounty. Okay, so how they do it is they spend as much as time to understanding the application, which request is doing which thing, which certain cookie is using for identifying the user or the privileges of the user, which certain cookie is validating the CSRF request or authenticating the request. So this is how you have to analyze the application, understand the functionalities, and then you can try to break it through.
Okay, so how much time do you take when you analyze the application?
So let me say this then. In my starting days, I used to take a week or 15 days to understand the application. So when you start doing bug bounties, you lack of one thing, which is patience. It comes in anyone's case. Okay, you see other people scoring bounties, and you are sabotaging yourself that I'm not scoring such. Okay, so for that, you have to have some patience, right? For initial time of mine, it I used to take a week or so. It actually depends on the application, how big it is, how much role they have, how much functionality they have. Okay,
Sure.
but generally, when you have not much experience, you take more time to understanding the things or functionalities they are using, how it is working on the backend. So we generally do not have access of the source code, so we have to guess everything, right, based on your skills, based on the behavior of the application. Okay, so nowadays, based on my experience, I can say I can take a few hours, like 4 to 5 hours, to analyze an application, how it is working, and trying to break through it. Sometimes the application is big enough that 1 or 1.5 days is more than enough for me. But in my initial days, I would say it used to take me at least a week or 3 days to analyze an application.
That's amazing, and it requires a lot of patience, and it seems you have it.
Of course, you're gonna have it too.
I see. Well, so in the category of improper access control, which one is your favorite bug that you have found in your journey till now?
So when it comes to improper access control, let me think on it. So in improper access control, yes, I did find the bug during a pen test. I won't say in during bug bounty journey, but yes, in pen test I did found that. So there was a cross tenant application where you can register your own organizations. They have different sort of functionalities. So when you register an application, you are the admin of the organization. Okay, so what they do is you can set up your own rules, your own access control. It was kind of really big application. So
Mhm.
there was an either issue where when you update your organization profile, there is a mail of the super admin, or you can say the admin of the whole organization. Okay, in that organization request there were multiple parameters. It was a JSON request, they were using REST API.
Okay.
So it has some fields like your address of your own company, name, first name, last name of the admin, and email address of the admin. Okay, and that email address was used by the application for resetting the password or accessing the entire organization application. So the endpoint was like post slash API slash admin slash organization slash then an integer value of the ID. Okay, so in that post request, if you're gonna change the IDs from 1234 to 1235, so that was the trickiest thing, right? So like easiest thing I would say, so
Yeah.
not trickiest one. So I changed the value with just incrementing by 1 or 2, and then I literally, that was the thing that I didn't have credential of other organizations, so I mistakenly updated the email address of the other organization. I took over the other organization and I didn't really have access to it, and I shouldn't be supposed to do it. So I reached to that client and told them that I have done this, these are my logs and everything. So they did provide me the other tenant. Then I tried to do the same thing with the other tenant's IT, and I was able to take over the entire organization. So this was the most critical business impact you can have, that you can take over the whole organization. You have the whole control of the organization. You are the super admin now.
That's great. You chose a random integer and it worked, even though you didn't have two accounts.
Yes, actually, what happened is like there was ID the 2134 or something. So I tried incrementing two numbers and I just sent the request and it worked. So that was the blind approach because I didn't know. Based on the response, you can guess that okay, it's 200. Okay, but originally for verification, you have to see the application, right? You have to log into that account. If you can see that the email is changed on your profile, then there is an account takeover. Okay,
Yeah.
so for that was a blind approach. So I reached the customer, they provided me another tenant. So then I tested it in cross tenant and it worked actually.
You use word tenant. What's tenant?
When you can see a tenant means an organization is considered as a tenant. Okay, when you are, let's say there is a domain called corporate.amazon.com or something. Okay,
Okay.
so for or brand.amazon.com or walmart.com or any company, you say abc.com. So let's say you are registering your brand there and you can list your products in that company. Okay, so that is your whole tenant, that you can use it for your own company. You can add different users which are your employees of your company, right? So as the same, similarly, you and me, I have my own company and organization, so I'm going to register my brand on that domain, brand.abc.com, and I'm registering my profile and my company there. I'm adding my employees there. Okay, so your tenant and my tenant is different. Both of the tenant are different.
Okay.
because both of the companies are different, right?
Okay, my next question is, what's your approach when you're hunting for an enterprise application?
Nice question. A lot of people ask me the same, so here you go. So generally, different hackers or different hunters have different sort of approaches. And when it comes to me, then I like hunting on a wild functionality application, like an enterprise application you asked, right? So when I see an enterprise application, I just generally turn on my burp suite and start intercepting the request or click on the burp history, HTTP history tab, and just start analyzing the application. So how the login flow is working. At the same time, you can use some different tools for which extract the JavaScript of the application and which filters out the endpoints of the particular application, which endpoints the application is using. Okay, so those are the thing I do simultaneously while exploring the application. I check the requests one by one. I analyze the functionalities, that how the application is built, what is the logic of the particular application. Okay, so how many roles are there, what roles a user should able to perform, what sort of action a user should be able to do. If there is any public documentation available, I do read it. This is the must thing you can do when you are hunting on an enterprise application. You should be reading the documentation and the roles, how they are working, what you are supposed to do, what you are not supposed to do, what you are allowed to do, what you are not allowed to do. So
Yeah.
this is how I analyze the application. So firstly, a few hours or sometimes a day or two, I give time to understand and analyze the application. Then I gradually start exploring bugs of access control. That first latest login functionality. Okay, so let's say an example, there is a login page. Okay, input box where you have to insert the OTP, which is sent to your email, your mobile number, or there is a 2FA authenticator in place. Okay, so generally, then if I see there is a security feature. Okay, then try to bypass that 2FA page. That if I am able to bypass it. Okay, so that's the first thing I do. Whenever I see a feature, I try to penetrate that feature. So if there is a login and ID and password, okay, then you try inserting two-time email parameter or username parameter. So there is a parameter pollution in the place, or not. Okay, if you are able to log in into your account or someone else's account there. Okay, so there is the first thing. Okay, you are testing a login functionality. After the if there is a 2FA in place, then you try to bypassing it, right, by brute forcing it, by manipulating the response or manipulating the request itself. So after that, you see the dashboard page, and okay, then you see that there are multiple roles in there. Then there is a huge loot you can get from that application, right? You just jump on the log into the lower privileged users one by one, analyze the requests and try performing it from the lower level user account. If you see the numerical IDs, you try manipulating it and try to find the IDs, right? If you're just trying an application, okay, you spend a few hours, you didn't get anything, you spend a few hours, you tested the things you know only, right? You are not trying to know the application or understand the application to find something new. So that is the thing, you are creating blocker for your own self there. If you want to be a good bug bounty hunter or a good hacker or you're a good pen tester in web application or any application or any field, okay, you have to have some patience and have some curiosity at the same time to understand the application more, how it is working.
So it's mostly about spending time and constant learning.
Of course, you need a lot of patience that be having.
True. Well, that was really nice talk, and I don't want to make this podcast too long, but I really had fun talking to you, and I learned a few things myself.
That's great. Glad to help you guys.
Yeah. So I'm ending this podcast now, and if you guys are interested in Smile Hacker social medias, I'll give the link in the description. Do check them out.
Bye bye.